Maybe it's time for America to say thank you to Donald Trump. Stocks have added $1.6 trillion in value since the election. Consumer confidence is surging. In fact, a record amount of people pointing to excitement over new policies. Truck orders are up for the first time in more than a year. Rail orders are up for the first time this year, led by coal and metals. And by the way, Mark Burnett, creator of The Apprentice, thinks Inauguration Day should begin with the parade down Fifth Avenue in New York. You know what? At this rate, who could argue with him? The president himself, in fact, the president-elect himself, in fact, says he's actually obviously excited about this stock market boom, and he's taken all the goodwill in. Listen to what Donald Trump had to say at his latest thank you tour rally.
A lot of good, wealthy people fighting us, right? That didn't work. But those wealthy people aren't so unhappy now because the stock market's gone up so much because of us. That those wealthy people just got wealthier, right?
All right, let's face it, it's not just the wealthy people. We all got a little wealthier. Joining me now to discuss Lily Gil Valletta, David Nelson, and Gina Loudon. Gina, $1.6 trillion. I'm not tired of winning yet. I got to tell you what, but my hands are getting cramped from counting that money.
Well, that's great, Charles. It's a good problem to have, as we all like to say. I think the fascinating thing that I'm kind of watching, we all knew that Trump had a business genius. We knew that he had a political acumen that he's certainly acquired along this political trail somehow. But the fascinating thing is the psychological groundwork that he's laying. It's kind of like when you buy something, Charles, you know, you go to the store, you buy something, and people bought into this presidency. And now he's kind of that guy who's saying, look, once you brought that great product home, you can rationalize it. It was such a logical, good decision because I'm proving to you that I am who I said I was, and I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. And that is causing investors to take a second look at what they thought might happen if he were elected.
It's also causing, Lily, non-Trump voters to take a second look. We talked about a Bloomberg poll out this week where at one point Donald Trump, the businessman slash TV star, was at 29% approval. He's at 50%, but he's shooting up like a rocket along with the stock market and consumer confidence.
Well, we are now past the emotion of we are in election and picking between candidates. He is the candidate. And it's very hard to argue with numbers, especially if you're a smart business person.
How do you explain the numbers? How do you explain this sort of amazing euphoria? This goes beyond your typical honeymoon period.
Well, he has been consistent with messaging. So repetition builds retention, and his repetition has been growth, growth, growth. If he's promising tax cuts and deregulation and incentives for American business to thrive, that is stuff people are taking note on. And the types of professionals and billionaires that he's picking as part of his cabinet is also proving that he's surrounding himself with the right people and also betting on growth and taking action to promise and deliver on that growth.
And yet, David, this was the message before the election when all the Wall Street elite said Donald Trump means instant crashing of the stock market. You have folks like Mark Cuban saying take your money out of this market if you think he's going to win. So why all of a sudden has everything not come to fruition?
I think Lily hit on a very important point. Growth solves a lot of problems,
but
both
we haven't
economically
grown yet, have we?
and politically as well.
But what's growing here? Anticipation of growth, excitement of growth, anticipation of a new dawn in America?
We're certainly taking a lot on the come here. And you start to roll back, a lot of the overreach from a regulatory standpoint. And suddenly you got to do something with the numbers. That almost expands the multiple. And that's what we're seeing right now. Hence this massive rotation out of slow growth names to where you're just getting the dividend into banks that have lagged for literally years at this point, into cyclical stocks, industrials, based on the concept of infrastructure. But I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. I'm pretty excited about all this. But let's remember that, Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. And the last time I looked, there's still a lot of Democrats in the House and the Senate. So I would taper some of the expectations here. There's going to be some compromise.
Yeah, I tell you what, the Democrats would be foolish to get in the way of this. Let me tell you something interesting, Gina. This morning, the big news on Wall Street was that the CEO of Coke was stepping down. The stock went higher. Anytime a CEO steps down and the stock goes higher, it tells you maybe that CEO didn't do a good job. One part of this discussion that we don't have is that Barack Obama is stepping down, sort of like Muhtar Kent. He's moving out of the way. I think a lot of people believe that this dark cloud, at least when it came to business, when it came to prosperity, it's out of the way, and you have someone who's determined to make us all richer.
Yes, because he's demonstrated before he's even started, that he's going to keep campaign promises when he's already creating jobs. That's leverage that he can use. And he almost doesn't even have to do anything, Charles. He can almost just take over the presidency and have people think, wow, we better get rid of the bad players, exactly like you're saying, and the good players will fight forward, because they're not looking at fake printed money. They're not looking at stimulus. They're looking at real possibilities, real growth in a more genuine economy that actually reflects the true value of things. So people are naturally, the bad guys are going to weed. Yeah, well, it's kind of nice.
And that was the problem, guys, right, with the Fed money printing attempt to induce
literally
sort of
suck the alpha right out of the market.
to generate what they call the wealth effect. In other words, if the market goes up, we'll all feel rich and we'll all go out there and spend money. People were too hip to that, particularly people on Main Street.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the way the stock market works, and you don't have to be an incredible hedge fund manager to know this, is based on how well the companies that are in the stock market perform. You remove any barrier for them to be able to thrive and grow, then you have an expectation that they're going to do better. So that's what's happening. Is like, even for me as a small business owner, I feel relief, and I'm looking forward to what is it that it's going to help us.
Are you sensing or feeling more orders or more excitement among customers, vendors, and all of that sort of stuff?
I am an avid supporter of minority-owned businesses and their need for access to capital. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel of, yay, maybe deregulation is finally going to remove some of these barriers. He even said it in the speech in Iowa last night. He talked about women and investment in small businesses owned by women.
She's right.
So that is great.
But even guys, even people who aren't in the market, even people who are apolitical, people who may not watch tonight's, the latest tour of leg of the thank you tour, they feel something. I mean, it is palpable.
Showing up in the numbers.
It's palpable. And listen, when we see consumer confidence soar to the degree that it has, when people say, hey, you know what? I feel like my life is getting better. That number is at the highest number since 2005.
I was actually shocked at some of the numbers that we've been seeing. Now, to be fair, we have to be fair here. It wasn't as bad as we thought, because the GDP, the second revision of third quarter GDP was 3.2. That was way above what we were expecting. Now everybody's ratcheting the numbers higher. So we're going to need to see some delivery here at this point.
There's no doubt that the first 100 days are going to be very critical, because a lot of the excitement is being built in now. David's got a point. There was a ripple, but Donald Trump, I think, is turning it into an economic tidal wave. Guys, thank you very much.